Part 14. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 131. The general trend of the three parties is moving in vain. The power is shocking. In the blink of an eye, the three parties, as well as Jijiao Guiling and other disciples, all arrived outside the formation of Yugzu Palace. When the disciples in the formation saw this scene, their expressions suddenly changed. With so much momentum coming here, their scalps went numb when they saw it. If it weren't for the large formation protecting them outside, they would probably pee in fear immediately. We have a large formation of teachers, so we should be fine. Yes, our master is a saint, and the saint's formation cannot be easily broken. Qi Jinzi, a second-generation disciple of Chan Xiao, and other third-generation disciples of Chan Xiao, comforted themselves in their hearts. We, the demon clan, respect the order of the 10,000 demon king, and come to help teach you how to break the formation. We, the witch clan, respect the order of the shamans and come to help teach you how to break the formation. My demon sect, respecting the order of the leader, is here to help you all break the formation. The disciples of Chan Xiao were having a headache when they looked at the mountain protecting formation of Yugzu Palace. But when they saw the arrival of the three parties, they suddenly became overjoyed. These three masters represent their three senior brothers. It's the first senior brother, the second senior brother, and the third senior brother who have come to help us. With the help of the three senior brothers, this formation of teachings will be broken. Jijiao's disciples secretly said. Turtle Spirit stared at the teaching formation. His breath sank. The disciples of Jijiao obeyed the order and destroyed the mountain guarding formation of Chan Xiao. Yes. After hearing this, all the disciples of Jijiao sacrificed their magic weapons one after another. The monsters, witches, and demons behind also showed violent power. At this moment, there were tens of thousands of people outside the mountain protecting formation, and the lowest existence, but they are all de Luo Jinxian. The strongest one is the top existence of Quasi-Saint killing 3 corpses. They all attack, and the power can be imagined. Tens of thousands of them are blasted out of the void with powerful power. This scene is like thousands of chaotic divine thunders falling from the void. Boom! A sound that shook the wilderness came out. Tens of thousands of powerful energies were blasted on the formation of Yugzu Palace. In an instant, the mountain protecting formation set up by the saint actually shook and cracks appeared. It was just one blow, and there were cracks. It can be imagined that if it continued, the mountain protecting formation set up by the saint would be broken, and it would only take a while. Tisk tisk, tens of thousands of powerful energy bombardments, so powerful, I am afraid that the magical power of a saint is no more than this. It's really terrifying. If we stood below with this power, we would be reduced to scum in just one breath. The pupils of the great powers of the prehistoric era shrank, with a look of fear on their faces. Obviously, they were also frightened by the bombardment power of tens of thousands of beams. The great powers of the prehistoric era were all in a state of fear when they were hundreds of millions of miles away. Not to mention all the Chan Xiao members in the formation. Before they fled back to Chan Xiao, they wanted to be protected by the Chan Xiao mountain protecting formation. However, now there are cracks in the mountain protecting formation. This has never happened before. If cracks can appear, they can naturally be broken. If the mountain guarding formation is broken, they can imagine the result with their buttocks. Everyone is almost crying at this moment. Continue. The turtle spirit shouted. He took the lead in gathering his strongest power. Tens of thousands of people gathered together to gather momentum. Boom! Tens of thousands of powerful powers struck down again. Originally, there were only a few cracks on the saint's mountain protecting formation, but after the second blow, dozens of them were added. Above the void, Yuan Shi's face became even darker. Before Yuan Shi's face became even darker. I was very confident, thinking that Ji Jiao didn't have the strength to break his formation. But unexpectedly, Ji Jiao's Wuxian, Tong Jiao, and Duo Bao actually attracted the power of the three parties. This formation was set up by him to protect him from the dojo. Now, every time the members of Ji Jiao hit him, they slapped him in the face. They had already slapped him twice. The anger in Yuanxi's heart now, even the eruption of a volcano is not enough to describe it. Next to Yuanxi, there is a bit of stiffness on my face. Ji Jiao is just crazy, but after gathering the momentum, it is so terrifying. What is being bombarded now is Yuanxi's dojo. If he is still in the conferred god, Ji Jiao may not be able to blame him. When the time comes, his dojo will be bombarded. At this moment, I have decided in my heart that when the Yuanxi formation is broken, it will be the time for him to withdraw from the battle of the gods. He must not accompany Yuanxi Chanjiao to finish the game. At this moment, Yuanxi little did he know that I was no longer on the same front as him. The third blow. The fourth blow. Every time the interception sect members and the general forces of the three parties struck, the hearts of the disciples of the Chan sect trembled. Seeing the Jade the Great formation in the Su Palace became more and more unbearable. Everyone became more and more panicked and fearful. Many of the disciples with low cultivation level had already begun to tremble in their legs and feet. The fifth blow. The sixth blow. The cracks became more and more severe. The huge and terrifying power made the formation more and more unbearable. Finally, a shocking sound came out. The shaky and overwhelmed Yugzu Palace mountain guarding formation finally broke. Broken. Is the formation really broken? What should we do? With so many people in Jijiao and the general trend of the three parties, are we all going to die? The disciples of Chanjiao saw the last blow, how terrifying the power was, which broke their last mental barrier. Each of them looked dull. Their hearts were filled with fear. Tisk, tisk, it only took 7 strikes to break the Saints' formation. The formation of Saints was broken, and Ji Jiao had previously threatened to exterminate Chan Xiao. At this moment, Ji Jiao's momentum is like a rainbow, and Chan Jiao's disciples will definitely not be able to defeat him. If everyone from the Ji Jiao attack, all of the Chan Jiao will surely die. Ji Jiao killed his disciples at Yuanxi Saint's dojo. I wonder if he would take action despite Tao ancestors' prohibition. The eyes of all the great masters in the prehistoric era were shining brightly, and they stared at the teachings without blinking. You explain the religion and start sectarian wars. Sects are fighting. The sects have not fallen, and the fighting will not stop. I, the Ji Xiao, challenge you and others to explain the Xiao, but does anyone dare to fight? The turtle spirit has a strong momentum and stares at all the disciples of Chan Xiao. At this moment, the disciples of Chan Xiao are completely frightened and panicked. There is no one who dares to challenge. They are trembling and looking away. Since no one dares to challenge you, I can only start a melee. The disciples of the Ji sect obeyed the order and rushed into the Yugzu Palace to send the disciples of the Chan sect to the list. Gui Lingyu waved her hand and shouted coldly. Yes. A group of Jijiao disciples responded immediately. The next moment, Zhao Gongming and Kong Xian rushed into the Zixiao Palace with their magic weapons. The rest of them did not miss a beat either. Really got in. The great powers of the prehistoric times exclaimed as their eyes moved. Red Gold, come and die. Zhao Gongming shouted coldly. The 24th grade Dingaizu attacked forcefully. Qi Jinzi looked frightened, and he quickly wanted to use his magic weapon to resist. But unfortunately, he was so frightened that he was a step slower. Before he had just used his magic weapon, he shouted coldly. At this moment, the 24th rank Dingai Pearl has fallen. The physical soul has been extinguished and taken away by a single blow. The red gold is on the list. Then among the Chan Xiao, only a group of third-generation disciples of the Chanjiao are left. But in the blink of an eye, half of the Chanjiao disciples are left. Half of the third-generation disciples have died in the melee. Yuanqi, above the void, finally reached an uncontrollable level of endless anger. All 12 disciples were dead. Now almost half of the third-generation disciples are dead. If it continues, his orthodoxy no longer exists. His teaching can be said to have been exterminated. Enough! A holy voice screamed. The endless holy power descended directly and suppressed the entire void in an instant. All the disciples of Zhijiao were suppressed by the holy power and could not move at all. The saint of Yuanqi still lowered his holy power. Tisk tisk, the holy power is now suppressed, but it only prevents the Zhijiao disciples from continuing to kill the Chanjiao disciples, but does not take action to kill the Zhijiao disciples. It seems that the Yuanqi saint is still a little afraid of the Tao ancestors' ban. The holy power of Yuanqi is suppressing, and Zhijiao wonders if there will be saints who will also lower their holy power to check and balance, and continue to let Zhijiao's disciples kill Chanjiao's disciples. The great masters of the prehistoric era suddenly became energetic. If Yuanqi takes action, it is very likely that the saints of Zhijiao will also take action. The battle of the gods has been going on until now, but there has never been a real battle between saints. Naturally, they are looking forward to it. Zhijiao. Above the teaching. Tongtian looked at the place where the teaching was explained with a cold expression. Yuanqi lowered his holy power to suppress it, but did not dare to take action. Tongtian could already see that Yuanqi was still afraid of Dezu's ban. Suppressed by holy power? Want to protect yourself and explain the Taoism. Today I want you to watch the orthodoxy of Chanjiao be destroyed. Tongtian sneered. He turned to the Tongbeo monkey and Duobeo and said. Band-armed ape, Duobeo, you and the other two go and destroy the Chan sect. Both Tongchimen and Duobeo are blessed with great luck. Yuanqi's holy power can suppress Turtle Ling and other disciples. But Tongchi and Duobeo cannot be suppressed. Is teacher. The ferocious nature of the Tongbo ape is revealed. Duobeo's momentum is strong. Two bodies are flying across the sky. But in the blink of an eye, they have already reached the top of Chanjiao. Yuanqi saint, you use your holy power to suppress our junior brothers and sisters. Do you think that if you cut off the teaching, there will be no disciples who can destroy the disciples of your teaching? There are two of us here. The giant demon clan's luck showed up on the demon body. Duobeo's huge witch clan's luck also showed up on the Tao body. In an instant, the two of them used the demon clan's luck and the witch clan's luck to break through the Holy Spirit. He was restrained by the power and rushed directly to the Yugzu palace of Chanjiao. Chanjiao provoked a sectarian war with the intention of destroying my Zhijiao section. You must suffer the consequences today. I am a giant monkey with many treasures, and in the name of my master, I have come to destroy the orthodoxy of the Chan sect. The armed ape holding the sky stick came out across the sky, and the multi-treasure purple electric hammer showed up powerfully. You guys, how dare you? Yuanqi yelled angrily, trying to intimidate with threats. But how can the Tongbobi monkey and Duobeo be threatened by Yuanqi? Before Yuanqi could finish his words, Tongbobi monkey and Duobeo had already been blasted down with one blow. One blow ignored the Holy Spirit. The power directly hit the Yugzu palace of Chanjiao. The Yugzu palace was instantly shattered, and the 3 generations of disciples of Chanjiao among them died directly. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 132. On the list of gods, rays of light flashed one after another. All the second-generation disciples and third-generation disciples of Chanjiao were not missed. All on the list. Tisk tisk, Tong Bram Ape, Duobeo, worthy of being the second and third senior brothers of Zhijiao. So cruel. The Yugzu palace was shattered, and all the disciples were wiped out. It can be said that the orthodoxy of the Chan sect was destroyed in this way. The great powers of the prehistoric era looked shocked. Chan Xiao, the saint sect, the leader of the Saint Yuanqi sage, was once the third saint to be sainted. The luck in charge can be said to be the strongest. However, first, he watched helplessly all his disciples. On the list. Now I am watching with my own eyes the band-armed monkey Duobao, the final blow that destroyed his Taoism. He founded Chan Xiao, countless Yuanhui, and once had good luck. But now there is nothing. Above the void, in Yuanqi's eyes the murderous aura is getting stronger and stronger. The original saint showed his murderous intention. Tisk tisk, the Yuanqi saint is probably going to fight. However, as his own orthodoxy was being destroyed before his eyes, as a saint, how could he have any scruples? This time in the battle of the gods, Saint Yuanqi and Saint Laozi are together. If Saint Yuanqi takes action, I am afraid that Saint Laozi will also take action together. Tisk tisk, when the time comes for the two saints from Yuanqi to take action, the leader of the Ji cult, Tongtian Saint, and his disciple Wuxian Demon Saint, will definitely start a war directly. Tisk tisk, the battle between the four saints is so spectacular. The great powers of the prehistoric era had flashing expressions. They were looking forward to Yuanqi and Laozi fighting together to fight against Zhijiao Tongtian and Wuxian. However, at the next moment, I stood in the void. Our religion announced that it will withdraw from the conferred God's war from now on. Laozi's holy voice spread throughout the void. What's the situation? Didn't the Saint Laozi and the Saint Yuanqi stand together to become gods? Why quit now? Tisk tisk, I'm afraid the Yuanqi saint will be very angry if he withdraws from the battle. Obviously all the great masters in the world had not thought of this scene. They had always thought that I and Yuanqi would stand closely together. Unexpectedly, I actually chose to withdraw after the destruction of Yuanqi's orthodoxy. Is it possible that the Saint Laozi withdrew because he was afraid of intercepting the teaching? However, Laozi and Yuanqi have been saints and established the sect for many years, so their strength is supposed to be stronger than Tongtian and Wuxian of the Ji sect. Why is this? All the great masters in the prehistoric era were both shocked and puzzled. Above Ji Xiao. Although Nuwa knew that Tongtian was an unknown Taoist, she felt that it was a wise choice for me to quit. But she couldn't figure it out. She knew that Tongtian was an unknown Taoist. But I don't know. Why did you choose to withdraw at this time? Everyone is puzzled, but my withdrawal was expected by Tongtian. I am cautious, unusually cautious. He has seen the terrifying power of the Zhijiao forces gathering together, even though he still didn't know his true identity and true strength, but these forces threatened to destroy his orthodoxy. He just quit without hesitation. On the surface, I do nothing, but in fact, I do everything. The villain style is one of these. My withdrawal was like the last straw that overwhelmed Yuanqi. Yuanqi's anger and murderous intent surged. Before starting the battle of the gods, there was luck and opportunity, and you and I cooperated in various ways, and the two religions fought together. But now, all my luck and opportunities have been ruined, and my orthodoxy of teaching has been shattered. You actually just quit. How unreasonable. Senior brother, how could you do this? Yuanqi yelled furiously. Junior brother Yuanqi, you are the main leader in this battle to become gods, and I am just a supplementary one. It is you who signed the list of gods, not me. Why can't I do the same? I smiled indifferently. At this moment, I looked at Yuanqi as if I were looking at someone I didn't know. Tisk tisk, I, the saint, actually have such a character. What a great experience. I didn't expect that either. I say that if you fall out, you will fall out. This is faster than flipping through a book. All the powerful people in the prehistoric times were amazed. Okay, senior brother, I've written it down. After today, my Yuanqi and I will become strangers. Yuanqi shouted coldly, like thunder exploding from the sky. The Pangu three pure ones have been closely connected since the separation of the Shangqing and Tongtian. The two are usually the elder brother and the younger brother. However, starting from this moment, taking Yuking and then no connection. Tisk tisk, this is a complete break between Saint Laozi and Saint Yuanqi. All the great masters from the prehistoric period were amazed. In the past, when the two Qing dynasty human religions were named Chanxiao, whenever one was mentioned, one would definitely think of the other. But from now on, the human religion is the human religion, and the Yuanqi is the Yuanqi. Farewell. I gradually became cold, and I didn't care at all about the breakup of Yuanqi. After saying that, I wanted to take the two disciples back to the human sect, completely ignoring the battle of the conferred gods. At this moment, above the G sect, Tongtian's expression became colder. Before all kinds of calculations. Now that I see that Zhijiao is powerful and know that there is a threat, I want to leave. Is it possible? I can quit, but your disciples of Renjiao have to stay. You can leave, but I will send your two disciples to the list. A cold and domineering holy voice came out from the sky. Tisk tisk, Tongtian Saint is so overbearing. Even the sage Lao Tzu said he was quitting, yet he still wanted to leave someone to teach two disciples. I wonder if sage Lao Tzu will be as angry as Yuan Shi and go berserk. The eyes of all the great masters in the prehistoric era flashed with light. They thought that if I retreated, nothing would happen to me. But unexpectedly, an unexpected turn happened. Speaking of the two disciples of the Renjiao, no one appeared in the audience. But the two of them could clearly see the various horrific scenes of Zhijiao killing everyone. To be honest, the two of them were quite frightened. Now in Suandu, Master Dui heard that Tongtian wanted to keep them. I was trembling for a moment. I thought to myself, teacher, please don't abandon us. I can only say that Suandu and Dui have great ideas. Even if I don't want to abandon him, Tongtian will definitely let him abandon us today. My eyes turned cold. I wanted to retreat by myself, but Tongtian threatened to send two of his disciples to the list. Junior brother Tongtian, you have already destroyed the disciples of the Chan cult by intercepting the teaching. Why do you still keep two of my disciples? I shouted coldly. There are still two people missing from the incense god position on the conferred gods list, so they must be on the list, Tongtian said coldly. My eyes gradually turned cold. Junior brother Tongtian, are you going too far? I have already said that the People's Education League has withdrawn. I breathed heavily, with a tone that sounded like I wanted to use my power to intimidate Tongtian. It can only be said that he thought too much. Not to mention that he didn't have the strength or qualifications. Even if he did, had Tongtian ever been intimidated? Didn't my disciples hear it? Send people to teach disciples to be on the list. Tongtian's breath sank, and he shouted coldly. Respect the teacher's order. The warlike ape came out first. His violent demonic aura was on full display. Disciples of Renjiao, I will send you to the list. The Qingtian stick appeared out of nowhere and directly targeted Suandu and Dui, who were beside me at this moment. Among the Zhijiao disciples, the most lawless one was Wuxian. But the most violent and bellicose one was the Viper. Say kill. Absolutely kill. How dare. I'm anger is gradually becoming apparent. I've already revealed my holy power. Seeing the monkeys killing my disciples, I already have the intention to take action. Tisk tisk, the Tong-armed ape destroyed the Chanjiao orthodoxy in front of Saint Yuanqi, and now he wants to wipe out two of his disciples in front of Saint Laozi. This thong-armed ape is really ferocious and manic. Previously, the Yuanqi saint should have been afraid of Daozu's ban and never took action to stop it. I wonder if Saint Laozi will take action to stop it? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 133. Lao Tzu, Tao ancestors' prohibition has not stopped the canonization of gods, and the saints are not allowed to take action. Do you dare to violate Tzu's prohibition? Just when I was about to take action, demon Saint Wuxian behind Tongtian gave a cold shout. In an instant, I paused in the void. His eyes were deep. I am so cautious, going against the Taoist ancestors and the way of heaven. Naturally, he will not do such a thing. Junior brother Tongtian, can you, for my sake, allow you to teach these disciples and let me teach two of my disciples? I can't threaten you, so now I'm talking about face and favors. But will Tongtian give him face and favors with him? Obviously impossible. You have no face here. Kill, Tongtian said indifferently. Tisk, Tongtian saint is so domineering. I'm a dignified saint, if you say I won't give you face, I won't give you face. All the powerful people in the prehistoric era looked surprised. At the same time, the arm-armed ape's sky-supporting stick had fallen. Master Suandu and Dui were miserable. They thought that their teacher would save them. However, the teacher because of Daezu banned them, and they were too frightened to move. Seeing the sky-raising stick falling, the two of them sadly stopped calling me. Instead, they took out their own magic weapons, intending to resist. But the thong-armed ape is so ferocious, it controls the fate of the demon clan. The general situation is overwhelming, and the fighting power is overwhelming. How can Suandu and Dui masters be able to resist it? Come to death. There was a roar. The violent force of the sky stick exploded. Boom. The magic weapons of Suandu and Dui were directly blasted into pieces first. Immediately afterwards, the sky-raising stick fell on the two Taoist souls. In just one breath, the two Taoist souls were wiped out. Two rays of light on the list of gods. Flashing. Suandu and Dui were on the list. The anger in my expression instantly showed. Junior brother Tongtian, I have written this down. After becoming a god, I will never give up. I shouted coldly. Tisk tisk, the Yuanshi saint is already in a state of rage at this moment, and the Saint Laozi is also furious. Saint Tongtian is really powerful, he provoked two saints at once. All the powerful people in the prehistoric times were amazed. I will never give up waiting for you. Tongtian sneered, not taking Lao Tzu's threat into consideration at all. I was even more angry. But I was afraid of the Tao ancestors' ban. All the disciples of the human sex Chan sect were already on the list. And the human emperor Xian had already begun to fight back against Ziki's army. However, in the blink of an eye, Ziki Jihao and other rebellious people were all killed on the spot. The list of gods finally absorbed the endless death energy, and all 363 incense and fire gods were taken away. The murderous intention of heaven and earth born of countless tribulations, at this moment, finally disappear. Hey, the terrifying murderous intent that filled the air before is gone. What's the situation? All the great masters in the ancient world were secretly shocked. At this moment, I, Yuanshi, and others naturally felt it. The murderous intention was gone, which proved that the calamity had been terminated. The calamity was terminated, and the conferring of gods was considered to be over. I had not yet made any move, but Yuanzhong, who had already been furious, completely exploded in anger. Ji Xiao, if you wait to destroy my Chanjiao orthodoxy, you all deserve to die today. The saint's murderous intention, showed between heaven and earth. The saint had murderous intention, and it was still very strong. In an instant, all the great masters in the prehistoric era felt fear. Tisk tisk, the Yuanshi saint is crazy. Looking at it like this, the Yuanqi saint will never give up if he destroys Zhejiao. If the saint of Yuanqi takes action, the saint of Zhejiao will definitely take action. The war between saints is about to begin. Although the great masters in the prehistoric times were afraid of the murderous intention of the saint of Yuanqi, their eyes suddenly flashed with light. They have been watching the battle of the Fengshen sect until now, and what they are waiting for is the battle of the saint. Yuanqi, want to destroy my Zhejiao? Do you have that qualification? A roaring sound was heard as if it was shattering the heaven and the earth. Immediately after, a murderous aura appeared in the sky, floating hundreds of millions of miles in the air. Yuanqi's murderous aura was very strong, but compared with the murderous aura of Tongtian, it was completely incomparable. The murderous aura of Saint Tongtian is so strong. Compared with just the murderous aura, Tongtian Saint seems to be stronger. This Tongtian Saint established his religion not long ago, but he has never taken action. I don't know what his strength is. The great masters of the prehistoric era stared in amazement. In the Western sect, Jiyan and Zunti have been watching the battle of the gods. They are waiting for Tongtian to take action. They want to see if, as they guessed, Tongtian will he is an unknown Taoist. Yuanqi hates the disciples of Ji Xiao. But what he hates even more is Tongtian. In his opinion, if Chanjiao is destroyed, everything is Tongtian. If Ji Xiao's disciples want to be killed, Tongtian will be destroyed even more. Junior brother Tongtian, don't think that just because you have established a religion and attained enlightenment, you are qualified to confront me. I have established countless Yuanhui religions and attained enlightenment before you, and my strength is several times stronger than yours. Today, I not only want to destroy you and Zhejiao, but I also want to destroy you. Yuanqi shouted wildly. At this moment, Yuanqi was in a crazy state, and his arrogance was even more obvious. Since you are so confident, then I will let you see for yourself how ridiculous your so-called self-confidence is and how ridiculous it is to be several times stronger than me. Tongtian shouted. Tongtian waved his hand. A holy power of the avenue emerged, and then turned into a phantom of Tongtian. The four swords of killing immortals. With a move from Tongtian's hand, the four Zuxian swords suspended above Jijiao heard the sound and moved directly to the phantom of the holy power of the great Dao. Go! The phantom of the holy power of the great Dao broke through the air with the four swords of Zuxian. Tisk tisk, this is a life and death battle for a saint. This battle is definitely the most exciting in the prehistoric times. The eyes of the ancient great power became more and more energetic. Tongtian, fellow Taoist Yuanqi is now fully displaying his murderous intent. You just go there with a shadow of holy power. Can you handle it? Asked Nuwa, who was sitting cross-legged next to her. Nuwa knew that Tongtian was an unknown Taoist and was very strong. But she didn't know how strong Tongtian was. Now Yuanqi is crazy, and many Yuanhui have passed. Yuanqi's realm has improved quite a bit. Nuwa couldn't help but be a little worried about Tongtian. But it can only be said that Nuwa was worried too much. In the past, when the saint of Hunyuan was a saint, he could crush the four saints with his holy power. Now, Tongtian has become a great saint. That holy power, but the holy power of the great Dao. The holy power of the great Dao is countless times stronger than the holy power of Hunyuan. This holy power of the great Dao is condensed with the will of the great Dao. Although it is just the shadow of the holy power, with the will of the great Dao, the mere Hunyuan is not worth it. Mention. It's just Yuanqi, nothing more than a chicken and a dog. Tongtian smiled disdainfully. In just a blink of an eye, Tongtian's holy mighty phantom, holding the four swords of Zuxian, arrived at the shattered Yugzu palace of Chanjiao. Although it was just a phantom, everything looked like the real deity, with arrogant and domineering eyes. The breath is confident and unruly. Saint Tongtian, unexpectedly came just an illusory shadow of holy power. Could it be that Saint Tongtian has become so powerful that he can deal with Saint Yuanqi? So, that's impossible, right? Saint Tongtian has just achieved enlightenment and established a religion. The great masters of the ancient world were surprised and shocked when they saw the phantom of the Holy Might coming to the sky with a sword. Western religion. Senior brother, look at this phantom of Tongtian, do you think of the unknown Taoist? Quan asked. No, the aura of the unknown Taoist is not like this, Ji Yin shook his head decisively. He may not remember other people's auras clearly, but the nameless Taoist impressed him too deeply. Senior brother, is this fellow Taoist Tongtian an unknown Taoist? Or what is the relationship between them? Zunti asked in confusion. Let's read it first and then talk about it. I think that this battle will probably attract unknown Taoists in the end, and we will know the reason by then. Ji Yin thought for a while and said. Junior brother Tongtian, are you really still arrogant? I am going to kill you and your Jijiao disciples today, but you come here as just a shadow of holy power. Yuanqi sneered disdainfully. To kill you, a phantom of holy power is enough. Tongtian sneered. His expression was so arrogant, and he didn't take Yuanqi into his eyes. Yuanqi became even more irritated. Okay, junior brother Tongtian, let me see how arrogant you are later. Pangu flag. Yuanqi shouted, and the treasure that suppressed luck came out across the sky. The murderous intention increased several times in an instant. For a time, the entire void was swept by the terrifying power of Pangu banner. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 134. The Pangu banner is the most precious treasure of the saints of all religions, second only to the Laozi Tai Chi diagram. It is one of them transformed by Pangu's sky-opening axe. His extraordinary origin naturally contributed to his overwhelming power. Now Yuanqi has reached the 7th level of Hunyuan, and with the addition of Pangu banner, he can still fight even if he encounters a being at a higher level than him. In Yuanqi's view, reaching the sky is no more than Gangle Jiao's enlightenment, and at most it is no more than the 1st or 2nd level of Hunyuan. How to be his opponent? Pangu flags swept out. Power like thunder surged out. The saint was the most powerful existence in the ancient world, and one strike from the saint was enough to make the world tremble. Tisk tisk, so scary. After several Yuanhui sessions, the Yuanqi saint took action, but he didn't expect that he was already so powerful. The great masters of the ancient world looked surprised. The power bombarded by the Pangu flag was like thousands of extremely powerful evil beasts in the ancient world. But in the blink of an eye, it had already reached the shadow of the holy power of the sky. The right hand of the sky turned into a sword finger, as if it was hitting the sky directly in an instant. A bloody light rose up as if it were swallowing the sky. The bloody light suddenly appeared, and a murderous aura suddenly erupted like a torrent. But in the blink of an eye, this murderous aura enveloped half of the entire prehistoric land. How did the murderous intent of Saint Tongtian suddenly increase to such a terrifying level? Before, Saint Tongtian's murderous intent was stronger than that of Saint Yuanqi, but at this moment, the murderous intent seemed to have increased 100 times. This shouldn't be, how could it be so strong? The pupils of all the powerful people in the ancient world shrank. How could the murderous aura displayed in the realm of Hunyuan Saint reach such a level? Lao Tzu beside him breathed heavily. Western religion. Senior brother, fellow Taoist Tongtian is definitely not simple. Yes, this murderous aura is beyond what I can show. Ji Yin and Zunti said with slightly dull eyes. The 4 swords of killing immortals, rise. The phantom of Tongtian Chengui shouted coldly. 4 rays of blood-red sword light suddenly erupted from Tongtian's side. Some people have already lost before they make a move. Some of these people are talking about Yuanqi. Tongtian Chengui, the virtual shadow, only used the 4 swords of Zuxian to dispatch. Without using any magical power, the killing power of the four swords of Zuxian directly seemed to crush the power displayed by Pangubanner with one blow. Saint Tongtian actually just let Zuxian's four swords fly across the air, and then broke the blow of Yuanqi Saint Pangubanner. This is incredible. Even a being of the same realm would not dare to be careless about Yuanqi Saint's attack. How could Tongtian Saint break it so easily? How powerful would Tongtian Saint be if he used the four swords of killing immortals? The eyes of all the great masters in the prehistoric era were shocked, and their hearts were filled with amazement. How could this be? If junior brother Yuanqi uses the magical power of Pangubanner to fight against me, I will definitely use the magical power of Tai Chi too to fight back. And junior brother Tongtian can break through with just one move of his sword. Is it junior brother Tongtian who is strong? Or is his four immortal swordsmanship stronger? Although the power of the four swords of Zuxian is not bad, it should not be so strong. Doesn't that mean junior brother Tongtian is strong? However, he has just established a religion and achieved enlightenment. My eyes were also shocked, and I was constantly guessing. Senior brother, this fellow Taoist Tongtian is so strong. In terms of strength, the feeling is not much different from that of the unknown Taoist. Could it be that he is really an unknown Taoist? But the breath is different. Xiang Jiaojian and Zunti were also shocked. Not only everyone in Honghuang, but also Hongjun in Zixiao Palace were also shocked by this murderous aura. How could my disciple Tongtian be so murderous when he uses the immortal killing sword? Among the innate treasures, the immortal killing sword should be weaker than Tai Chi diagram and Pangubanner. After being surprised, Hongjun, the saint of Heavenly Dao, quickly used the power of Heavenly Dao to watch carefully. Obviously, Hongjun, saint of Heavenly Dao, wanted to figure out what was going on. It is a pity that Tongtian first had the hidden heaven divine formation, and later proved that the Dao was higher than the Dao of heaven. Unless Tongtian voluntarily revealed it, Hongjun, the saint of heaven, could not see the slightest clue. Before, Yuanqi was very pretentious and conceited. His words were all kinds of disdain. However, Tongtian in turn slapped him, directly calling him face. He was slapped in the face. Yuanqi's look of surprise gradually appeared. In his eyes, Tongtian should be very weak. The blow just now was enough to hurt Tongtian. But unexpectedly, he was defeated before others took action. Yuanqi, you are plotting against me. Do you really think that I am a piece of fish? Your teaching of interpretation was destroyed by my teaching of interception, and there is no need for you to exist in the prehistoric times. The murderous aura in the sky surges again. The holy sound is like coming from the nine netherworld, which is breathtaking. What's the meaning? Is there no need for the prehistoric existence in Yuanqi? Could it be? The expressions of all the powerful people in the prehistoric period were even more astonished. The phantom of the mighty holy power crosses the sky, like a supreme existence, looking down at Yuanqi with murderous intentions. Today, I reach the heavens and slaughter a saint from the ancient times. With a shout, a violent and domineering trend emerged. Zuxian, kill. The four swords of Zuxian originally stood in the void full of murderous intent. When the flowers in the sky fell, they turned into the wild beasts and killed gods and demons, and slashed directly towards Yuanqi. This sword is so terrifying. No, even though this murderous intention is hundreds of millions of miles away from us, it still threatens to kill us. Back away, run. The great masters of the prehistoric era looked frightened and fled towards the edge of the 8 wastelands of the prehistoric world. This murderous power is so terrifying that I can hardly resist it with my saint body. I's expression changed, and I quickly used the Tai Chi diagram. This sword was not aimed at me, but I was too close. The power of the sword made him instinctively feel the danger of death. Can a saint? They all subconsciously used the treasure for defense. One can imagine how powerful Tongtian's sword is. And the disciples of Zhijiao quickly hid behind the phantom of Tongtian's holy power. This sword is extremely terrifying. Although we are hundreds of millions of miles away from the battlefield, I am afraid it can still threaten some disciples of the Western sect. Yes, we can't be careless. The two of us quickly used our magical powers to protect one or two. In an instant, Jian and Zunti quickly used their saintly powers to protect Ling Shan. It has been quite difficult for them these years. There is no big Buddha, so they can only search for some weak disciples. If they are killed by this sword, if they were accidentally killed, they would definitely cry. At this moment, Yuanqi also felt the terrifying power of this power. He quickly sacrificed the Pangu banner again. Pangu banner sweeping across the world. Yuanqi sacrificed his strongest holy power and used the most powerful magical power of luck. He wanted to use this to resist. However, the two forces were one in the sky and the other in the earth. Yuanqi was just a mantis acting as a chariot. Bang! The Pangu banner of the Yuan dynasty just showed its power. But the next moment, it was like a tiny grain of sand in the vast world. The vast and terrifying power directly crushed the power of the Pangu banner's magical power and the Pangu banner into a nothingness. Nothingness, not debris. What a terrifying power! Tisk, tisk, the most powerful magical power and most powerful treasure of the Yuanqi saint is so vulnerable. Saint Tongtian is really terrifying. The great masters of the ancient world who had just escaped to the edge of the ancient world were even more horrified when they saw this scene. The two Western sects, all had the same fear, and were all shocked by this power. Yuanqi's eyes were filled with confusion. He was sluggish. Just before, Tongtian gave him only shock. But at this moment, he felt fear. Endless fear. A treasure like the Pangu banner turned directly into nothingness, and such a terrifying power slashed into his holy body. Above, even if he is a saint, he will die. In fear, he can no longer resist. In fact, he is unable to resist. Ordinary creatures in the ancient world, faced with powerful threats, will kneel down and beg for mercy. But the saint, although they are the strongest compared to ordinary creatures, the saints at this moment are no different from ordinary creatures in front of Tongtian. One is as strong as the sky, and the other is as strong as an ant on the ground. Junior brother Tongtian, please spare me. Yuanqi, will never be an enemy of Zhijiao in the future. Yuan. She said with a fearful and pleading expression. Spare you? Do you think that's possible? You have all kinds of calculations against me, against Zhijiao, how can I spare you? In the previous life, the orthodoxy of Saint Tongtian was shattered, but Yuanqi was not soft-hearted at all. All the saints even took action to target Tongtian alone. In this life, Tongtian reversed everything. How could he give Yuanqi any chance? Die! There was a cold shout, like a bell ringing. In the Zixiao palace, the face of heavenly Saint Hongjun changed drastically. No, my disciple Tongtian really wants to kill my disciple Yuanqi. The trajectory of the Great Road, Changjiao can be destroyed but Yuanqi will survive. It's time for me to stop it. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the Great Way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 135. The terrifying murderous intent of the four swords of Zuxian, accompanied by the power that can even kill a saint, gradually approaches Yuanqi. The expression on Yuanqi's face became more and more frightened. Just imagine, he is one of the incarnations of Pangu Yuanshen. Later, countless Yuan we cultivated to become saints and became one of the strongest in the prehistoric times. How could he be willing to die and disappear? Junior brother Tongtian, seeing that we are all transformed by Pangu Yuanshen, we can go around one or two. Yuanqi kept asking. But Tongtian's murderous intention was determined and would never change. Seeing that Tong Tien had no intention of bypassing him, Yuanqi cried. He would be the first saint to be slaughtered in the prehistoric times. Tisk tisk, Tong Tien saint really exceeded the expectations of the entire prehistoric era. The saint of Yuanqi is finished, this time he is destined to die. It seems that the prehistoric saints may not be truly safe. Saints are also in danger of falling. The great powers of the prehistoric times look surprised. This junior brother Tong Tien is so terrifying, after this battle, I must leave quickly. At this moment, I thought of what I said before. After the battle of conferred gods, we will never give up with Tong Tien. He had the confidence to say this before because he was sure that he could surpass Tong Tien in terms of realm strength. But now, he saw what he saw in front of him. This scene. All he had in his heart was fear. He was joking, but he would never give up. It was almost like there were no bones left. Western teachings. The eyes of Yingyan and Zunti shrank. It's so terrifying. With the combat power of fellow Taoist Tong Tien, I am afraid he could kill several saints like us without any pressure at all, Jiyan and Zunti said. At this moment, the two of them looked at the sky, feeling as if they had seen the unknown Taoist before. Fear, trembling, fear. Suddenly, purple lotus flowers descended from the horizon. Seeing purple lotus flowers, it was almost prehistoric. Everyone watching the battle had shocked expressions on their faces. Purple lotus, could it be that the Taoist ancestor is coming? The sound of surprise just came out. Honghuang in purple robes has already transformed into the void. Stop fighting. The indifferent voice, with a commanding tone, came out of the void. In an instant, the power of heaven spread and appeared. Daozu has appeared and wants to stop this battle. Tisk tisk, Tao ancestor is in charge of the way of heaven, and uses the power of heaven to check and balance. This time, the catastrophe that the Yuanqi saint was afraid of dying and disappearing was solved like this. It's a pity that the battle to kill the saints has been stopped. The great masters of the prehistoric era were both surprised and a pity. Tu Sheng, that is something that has never happened before in the prehistoric era. Thinking about it can make people excited. Naturally, they all want to see such an act that shocked the prehistoric world. However, the appearance of Honghuang immediately extinguished their previous excitement. The teacher is here, I don't have to be afraid anymore. Although Tong Tien Shuiying is targeting Yuanqi, I have always been panicked in my heart. However, now that Daozu appears in the void, he immediately feels a sense of security. It was almost that Taoist Tong Tien actually killed the saint, the Western cultist said to himself after receiving Yin and Zunti. Yuanqi, who thought he was bound to die, saw Honghuang and felt the power of heaven gradually emerge, and immediately became overjoyed. He was going to be saved. He didn't have to die and the Tao disappeared. Teacher, come and save me. The dignified saint of Yuanqi was shouting like a frightened child at this moment. Above Ji Xiao, Nuwa, who was sitting next to Tong Tien, frowned slightly. Teacher, why did you show up? Obviously, Honghuang will not interfere in this battle between Nuwa and Nuwa. Nuwa was surprised, but Tong Tien looked indifferent. Hongzhen's appearance could be said to have been expected by Tong Tien. In the battle of the conferred gods, because of himself the hidden hand of Jijiao made Jijiao suddenly stronger. Originally, Tong Tien's Jijiao Taoist lineage was shattered, but now it became Yuanqi's Chanjiao Taoist lineage. In this way, the general trend of heaven has been changed a little. If Tong Tien destroys Yuanqi now, what will happen that day? The foundation of the general trend can be changed. The several saints appointed by Honghuang are the foundation of the general trend of heaven. Honghuang will never allow the foundation to be broken or changed. Tong Tien, now the teacher appears, intending to stop it? I'm afraid that your attempt to kill fellow Taoist Yuanqi will not work anymore, Nu Wa shook her head and said. There is no power in the world to stop the person I want to kill. Tongtian's eyes showed a very strong momentum. What Tongtian has to do is to change the general trend of heavenly Dao, and destroy the foundation of Yuanqi and cut off the general trend of heavenly Dao. It is imperative. Out. The heaven-reaching hand waved. Another holy power of the Great Road appeared across the sky. The magical power of changing the world was added to this holy power of the Great Road. In an instant, this holy power of the Great Road turned into an unknown Taoist who had shocked the world countless times. Yushengjian. The chaos spiritual treasure refined with Fenbao rock appeared immediately. Go, block the way of heaven, and continue to tamper with the general trend of the way of heaven. Tongtian said indifferently. The shadow of the holy power that transformed into the nameless Taoist immediately flew away in the sky. Although Nuo had already known that the nameless Taoist was the manifestation of Tongtian, when she saw with her own eyes that Tongtian used his magical power, she changed his original form. The aura of the holy power of the great Dao changed into something completely different from that of the deity, and his expression was still very shocked. This was equivalent to completely changing a person. With such magical power, she, Nuo, could not do it. She thought, even Daoist Hongjun could do it less than. Daozu, this drama has reached its climax. If you want to stop it, I will not agree. An indifferent and arrogant holy voice came out across the sky. In an instant, it reached the ears of everyone watching the battle. This voice left a deep impression. Every time it appears, something amazing will happen. Unknown Taoist. It's the unknown Taoist who appears. Unnamed Taoist, are you telling Tao ancestor not to stop this battle? Tisk tisk. Doesn't that mean that the unknown Taoist also wants the death of the Yuanqi saint? The great powers of the prehistoric era looked shocked. But in the blink of an eye, a phantom came across the sky. This was the shadow of the nameless Taoist after Tongtian used his magical power. The shadow of the nameless Taoist stood in the void, and the surrounding area was chaotic. And another phantom of Tongtian himself. The phantom is currently killing Yuanqi with a sword. The two phantoms are flowers that reach the sky with the power of the Tao, but only one person can see it, even Hongjun. I just think that the nameless Taoist is the nameless Taoist, Tongtian its babble. Unknown Taoist. I, who was standing by, panicked when I saw this phantom. The various shadows that had been suppressed immediately appeared in front of my eyes. And Yuanqi, who was approaching with murderous intent, suddenly felt something bad in his heart. Originally, Daozu appeared, and I felt that I would definitely survive. But the nameless Taoist appeared and what he said just now was obviously to let him die. After guessing for a long time, Tongtian was the nameless Taoist's guide and guide. At this moment, his face was confused. This, Taoist friend Tongtian appeared, and the nameless Taoist also appeared. Is it possible that the two of them are really not the same person? The two people's guess was actually correct. However, under the supernatural power of changing heaven and earth, they couldn't see through it at all. Nameless Taoist, do you want to stop me? Hongjun's eyebrows widened, and his cold expression gradually appeared. Ever since he opened the Zixiao Palace and took charge of the way of heaven, no one has ever dared to say such lies. Daozu, if you want to ruin this show, then I will naturally stop it. The shadow of the unknown Taoist manifested in the sky, although it has not shown any power at this moment, but the words have an undoubted meaning. Unnamed Taoist, I am in charge of the way of heaven, and everything I do is in accordance with the will of heaven. If you stop it, it is equivalent to stopping the way of heaven. Do you know the pros and cons? Hongjun's words already contained some murderous intent and threats. Taoist Hongjun actually threatened the great power of heaven. It seems that this power can protect the first saint of the Yuan dynasty. I don't know if the unknown Taoist will directly confront the general trend of heaven. Tisk tisk, if the unknown Taoist dares to fight against the general trend of heaven. All the powerful people from ancient times suddenly appeared in a state of brilliance. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 136. The slaughter of saints shocked the world. Even more so against the way of heaven. Since Hongjun became the ancestor of Taoism, his later body was in harmony with the way of heaven. It can be said that no one dares to resist, and no one dares to question Hongjun. Blocking the way of heaven, so what? If I want to watch today's scene, the law of heaven cannot be broken. The shadow of the nameless Taoist manifested in the sky, standing in the sky at this moment, showing super domineering power. Tisk tisk, the unknown Taoist really said that he wanted to block the way of heaven. What confidence does the unknown Taoist have to resist the prehistoric laws of heaven? The great powers of the great desolate world were both shocked and surprised. In their eyes, the great way of heaven represents everything. Under the way of heaven, no one can disobey it. Whoever disobeys will die. The unknown Taoist is very strong, but among the great people of the great desolate world, in his heart, Duneng always acquiesces that the prehistoric way of heaven is the strongest. Is the unknown Taoist crazy? Blocking the way of heaven is almost like being an enemy of the way of heaven. Does he have that strength? I, as well as the two Western sects, also had the same expressions in their hearts as all the mighty men in the world. The purple lotuses that originally fell from the sky suddenly turned into fiery red. The most terrifying anger emerged between heaven and earth. The saint of heaven is angry. The powerful people in the prehistoric era have panic-stricken eyes. Hongjun represents the way of heaven, and his anger represents the anger of the way of heaven. The power of the way of heaven has given rise to the meaning of killing. Unnamed Taoist, the general trend of heaven should dictate everything. You have broken the law of heaven and returned home, but the law of heaven should not tolerate you. The saint of heaven's way said a word, and the power of heaven's way swept out. In the eyes of all the powerful men in the world, the power of heaven's way is the strongest force. It is so powerful that no one can resist it in the world. Daezu Hongjun takes action. The law of heaven does not allow it. It seems that the law of heaven wants to kill the unknown Taoist. The power of heavenly Dao Saint makes me feel like I don't even have the thought of resisting. I wonder if the unknown Taoist can be as strong as he said. All the powerful people in the prehistoric era looked at this place carefully with their eyes shining brightly. They all wanted to see if the unknown Taoist was really capable of blocking the power of heaven. Tongtian, the teacher is taking action, can you resist? Nu Wa asked with a worried look on her face. Since I said that no one can stop me from killing Yuanqi, that includes the Dao of heaven, Tongtian looked indifferent. In the past, Tongtian always thought about punching the way of heaven and stepping on the saints. Today, he finally got his wish. The power of the way of heaven and the saints of the way of heaven are the most powerful existence in the eyes of other prehistoric people. But in Tongtian's eyes, the only one who is the strongest is yourself. Whether it is the way of heaven or all the saints, they are all chickens and dogs. Who said that the general trend of heaven determines everything? Everything must obey the rules. Today, I just want to go against the general trend of heaven. A super domineering and arrogant voice that dominates the world. Going against the general trend of heavenly Dao, tisk tisk, I am afraid only an arrogant and domineering being like Wu Ming Taoist would have the courage to say this. Although all the great powers in the prehistoric times don't know who will win and who will lose at this moment, they are already very excited after hearing Tongtian's words. Yushinjian, show it. The chaos spiritual treasure refined with the Fenbao rock instantly showed great power. As soon as this heavenly sword was released, its power immediately shocked the world. It's this treasure again. This treasure is so terrifying. Everyone in the prehistoric era was astonished. At this moment, the Yushengjian appeared, but it was just a display of the power of the chaos spiritual treasure itself. Nameless Taoist, although your chaos spiritual treasure is powerful, you cannot resist the power of my heavenly Dao with just this treasure. Hongzhun said indifferently. Yet, the shadow of the unknown Taoist manifested in the sky sneered. The power of strength, come out. On the Yushengjian, in an instant, a super powerful supreme was displayed, like the power of splitting the heaven and the earth. This power of splitting the heaven and the earth is the avenue of power. What kind of power is this? Why do I feel that this power can split our world apart? A group of powerful people were instantly frightened. What power is this? Lao Tzu, Xiangyan Zunti was also surprised at the same time. As saints, they obviously felt that this power was far beyond their ability to resist. Chaos Pearl, Zuxian Sword, and Yushengjian. Among them, only Yushengjian was the only one. Only Tianjian can withstand the will of the Dao of power. Only Yu Tianjian can truly display it. As a saint of heaven, Hongzhun's face suddenly changed after the power of the Dao of power appeared. The power of the Dao, the power of force, the great way. Not long ago, he had felt it, but after calculating for a long time, he could not find its whereabouts. Unexpectedly, it appeared in front of him at this moment. And the person who possesses this great way of power is the unknown Taoist. The great way of power surpasses the way of heaven. In the prehistoric times, it can be said that the most powerful existence. The power of Yu Tianjian's power is revealed. The avenue of power appears, and it immediately fights with the power of heaven. But the avenue is beyond the power of heaven, and the power of heaven can't blink. It was being crushed. The power of heaven in the void was instantly crushed into nothingness by the power of the great avenue. The power of heaven was crushed into nothingness by the power of the unknown Taoist. This is so terrible. Has the power of the unknown Taoist surpassed that of heaven? Who is this unknown Taoist? He actually possesses such power that even the saints of heaven cannot resist it. The pupils of the great masters in the ancient world shrank, and their expressions of surprise were no longer enough to be described in words. Teacher, are you no match for the unknown Taoist? How could the unknown Taoist become so powerful? In this ancient world, wouldn't the unknown Taoist be the strongest existence in the future? The Western teachings of Jiyan and Zunti, exclaimed. The avenue of power, how could the avenue of power appear? The way of heaven was born, and the 3,000 great avenues have been hidden outside the wild world. Why can he take the great avenue of power and build it? The surprise in Hongzhun's heart was no less than that of all the great powers in the prehistoric times. Pangu once killed 3,000 gods and demons, and then opened the sky. The 3,000 gods and demons fell, and Pangu was exhausted. The 3,000 avenues have since blocked the new way of heaven. The law of heaven has been suppressing the outside force, preventing the 3,000 avenues from entering the ancient world. The purpose of the law of heaven is to dominate the ancient world. But the 3,000 avenues reappeared, and they were the strongest avenues of power among them. Tongtian, what state have you reached? You can actually crush the teacher's power of heaven. On Jijiao, Nuwa looked shocked. Although Nuwa knew that Tongtian was very strong, she didn't expect that Tongtian was so strong. Even the power of heaven can be ignored. The realm of avenue, Tongtian smiled indifferently. The realm of the Great Road? That is, what realm? Nu Wa looked puzzled. Beyond the way of heaven, there is the Great Road, Tongtian explained briefly. At this moment, Hongzhun was still shocked and curious. Dao ancestor, do you still want to fight? The shadow of the unknown Taoist manifested in the sky said coldly. At this moment, the celestial lotus flower was obviously a little more fiery red. Obviously, the Tiandao and the Tiandao saints were very angry at this moment. They were in charge of countless Yuanhui in the ancient times and restrained 3,000. Great Avenue. Unexpectedly, the 3,000 great avenues have entered the prehistoric era. Now, they have threatened his existence of the way of heaven. It seems that neither Daozu nor Tiandao want to fight. In this case, today I will end the trend of heaven, and you and she will die. The shadow of the nameless Taoist manifested in Tongtian shouted in the void. The shadow of Tongtian himself used the four swords of Zuxian with powerful killing intent, instantly piercing the holy body of Yuanqi. In the blink of an eye, the holy body and spirit of Yuanqi turned into nothingness. The body of Yuanqi died and the Tao disappeared. I saw the name of Yuanqi appearing on the list of gods. Originally, the list of gods only had the incense god position, but unexpectedly, now there is an incense saint. And all of this is because of Tongtian. The law of heaven is unable to respond, and Yuanqi dies. Tisk tisk, slaughter the saint and fight against the law of heaven. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 137. Tongtian slaughtered the saints. The nameless Taoist fought against the way of heaven. These two shocking actions shocked the hearts of everyone in the ancient world. Who is the unknown Taoist? Where did he come from? What kind of power does the unknown Taoist cultivate? Can you fight against heaven? There is also Saint Tongtian, what kind of power does he cultivate? He was able to kill the saint without any hindrance. What state has Saint Tongtian reached? Why did the unknown Taoist appear to stop the way of heaven when Saint Tongtian killed Yuanqi? What is the relationship between them? For a time, countless questions filled the minds of everyone in the prehistoric era. Among them, including the sainted Laozi, the two sages of the Western religion. Especially the two sages of the Western religion are the most troublesome. The unknown Taoist and Tongtian are not the same person. But they are powerful and cannot be provoked by them. But the demon saint is in the west of them. This really makes them feel very uneasy. If the demon saint can live in peace with them, then it will be fine. If they suddenly attack their Western religion, it will be terrible. It's over. No matter it's the Wuoming Taoist or Tongtian, they can't deal with it. Among them, the Wuoming Taoist is the most powerful. He can fight against the Dao of heaven and make the Dao of heaven helpless. What does this mean? It means that the Wuoming Taoist wants to destroy them. There is no way for heaven to stop it. The death of Yuanqi just now and Dao Xiao being sent to the list of gods is a good proof. The disciples who entered after the establishment of the sect, and these disciples still don't know at this moment, Tongtian is Wuoming. But Sangxiao, Guiling, Zhao Gongming, Band-Armed Monkey, Duobao, but they all know that their teacher is the unknown Taoist. Their teacher killed the Yuanqi saint. They knew from the beginning that the teacher must have that kind of strength. But when the teacher is when the nameless Taoist came out to fight against heaven's way, these few people still had some doubts in their hearts. Is the teacher really that powerful? Can he fight against heaven's way? When the facts are in front of them. Sangxiao, Guiling, Zhao Gongming, and Ape, Duobao and the others were both shocked and ecstatic in their hearts. Their teacher could really fight against the way of heaven, and was completely unafraid of it. In the future, even if it was the way of heaven, they would not be able to control it on their behalf. As for the saints, let alone that. The strength of Jijiao is their strength. My nameless fellow Taoist, you are really a good person. Even the power of my heavenly law cannot do anything to you. As expected of heaven, there was anger 1 second, but the next moment, all the anger was hidden, and what was replaced was a smile on his face. The Taoist ancestor called the unknown Taoist a fellow Taoist. Tisk tisk, it seems that the Taoist ancestor of the heavenly Dao saint is really helpless against the unknown Taoist. All the powerful people in the prehistoric era were shocked. Fellow Taoist represents respect. The saint of heavenly Dao thinks that only others respect him, but has he ever respected others? No one in the 3,000 mortals has ever been called a fellow Taoist by the Taoist ancestors. Dao ancestor, you are joking. If you mobilize the power of the ancient world, you should be able to fight with me. How can you say that there is nothing you can do? The shadow of the unknown Taoist manifested in the sky smiled coldly. The power of the prehistoric world. What is that power? Everyone in the prehistoric times heard a new word again and immediately became curious. Do you know the little thousand worlds? Hongzhen's face suddenly changed. Why, can't I know? The shadow of the nameless Taoist manifested in the sky smiled disdainfully. The eternal chaotic universe is divided into small thousand worlds, middle thousand worlds, and great thousand worlds. The current level of the prehistoric world is the small thousand worlds. The way of heaven controls the small thousand worlds. You can use the power of the small thousand worlds, which is equivalent to the power of the one world. But if the power of the one world is mobilized to start a war, the small thousand worlds will destroy the broken mountains and rivers and burn the living beings. Such a prehistoric era that was carefully inspired by the way of heaven has completely come to an end. Moreover, the small thousand worlds will definitely come to an end. After using the power of thousands of worlds, Hongzhen is not sure that he can defeat the unknown Taoist who has the power of power. Daozu, can you fight? The shadow of the nameless Taoist manifested in Tongtian asked in a cold voice. Hongzhen stood in the void and paused for a moment. Using the small thousand worlds would be the same as killing the fish and defeating the net, and it may not necessarily win. Hongzhen will naturally not start a war. Fellow Taoist joked, how could the power of the small thousand worlds be used so easily? How can we let all living beings in the wild be in ruins? Hongzhen's expression is cloudy and uncertain at the moment. It can be seen that Hongzhen is thinking a lot at this moment. But I don't know whether it is the thoughts of heaven or Hongzhen himself. When he said the word little thousand worlds, all the words and expressions of Hongzhen were astonishing to the sky. It has been expected. Tiandao does not want chaos, and Hongzhen does not want it even more. Hongzhen is in charge of Tiandao and controls the prehistoric world. How majestic it is! All his majesty and control have all disappeared. Even if he can't say it, Hongzhen will mobilize the power of the small world. Time turns into nothingness. Since Daozu does not dare to start a war, then I will leave. Who says the way of heaven is selfless? I think the way of heaven is selfish, and so are people. The nameless Taoist who manifested in the sky gave a pointed laugh and left in the air. Heaven has its own selfishness, and so do humans. What does the unknown Taoist mean by this? Could it be that, the nameless Taoist said that the way of heaven is not fair and impartial, and the same is true of the saints of heaven? All the great masters in the prehistoric era were immediately shocked. Such remarks have never been made before in the prehistoric era, and no one has ever dared to think or say it. Hongzhen, the sage of the way of heaven, who is standing fiercely in the void, has a fierce look on his face. One sentence triggers a comment. Planting a seed of selfishness in the way of heaven, which is terrible for the way of heaven, and also terrible for Hongzhen. The matter of canonizing the gods is over now. 10,000 years later, the list of gods will reappear, and the act of canonizing the god of incense and fire will be carried out. After a moment, Hongzhen left the void indifferently. And the list of gods also disappeared with Hongzhen. As soon as Hongzhen left, I panicked. Before, he said that after the gods, he and Tongtian would never give up. With Hongzhen here, he felt somewhat safe. But when Hongzhen left, all the sense of security disappeared. Let's go, I have to go quickly, I can't stay here. Otherwise, I will end up like junior brother Yuanqi. I don't dare to hesitate anymore. I used all my holy power and fled back to the dojo, Bajing Palace. Tisk tisk, did I, the saint, run away? Did he threaten before that he would never give up with Saint Tongtian? Is the saint afraid of me? How did the saint, Lao Tzu, become so timid? All the great masters in the ancient world couldn't believe it. This is a saint who was once the most powerful being, but he was scared away like this. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 138. After I returned to the Beijing Palace in panic, I quickly activated the formation, looking like I couldn't get out of seclusion. Obviously, I am really scared. Among the human race. The human Emperor Xian, after quelling the rebellion of Ziki, leading the ministers and thousands of people, they gathered at the Kaoj sacrifice altar. Today my great businessman Emperor Xian prays to heaven and earth. When the Emperor Xian came out, all the great masters from the prehistoric times stared at each other and left. The Emperor prays to heaven and earth? What do you want to do? Many great powers from the beginning are extremely curious. Only with the help of Ji Jiao can I, a great businessman, be as stable as I am today. Starting today, I, the great businessman, will always believe in the Jijiao religion. Human Emperor Xian's words fell, and instantly the huge human race's luck rose into the sky. What great luck! Such a huge fortune must be given to Jijiao. If Saint Tongtian suppresses this fate, his strength will be increased several times, and Saint Tongtian will be even more terrifying at that time. The great powers of the prehistoric era were both shocked and envious. Their luck was such a huge one for the great merchants of the human race. The Western sect, Jian and Zunti naturally also saw this scene. Senior brother, what a huge amount of luck. Unfortunately, we can only watch. Jian and Zunti were jealous when they looked at the luck. If the two of them could get such luck, their strength would increase tremendously. The huge luck flew across the sky and landed on Ji Xiao. Such huge luck, all the saints and great powers from the beginning were extremely jealous, but when Tongtian saw this luck, his expressions were indifferent. Let's not talk about Tongtian's realm, which has surpassed the existence of heaven. Let's just say that his skills do not need these chi at all. Transport. Disciples of my teaching, you are in charge of the fate of the human race today. I hope you will practice well. With a wave of Tongtian's hand, huge fortune was instantly distributed evenly to every disciple of Jijiao. What? Saint Tongtian actually gave such great luck to his disciples. Why doesn't Saint Tongtian suppress this fate and improve his strength? The great masters of the prehistoric era were shocked again. The great masters of the prehistoric world thought that Tongtian would suppress their luck by themselves. However, they gave their luck to the disciples. Being able to become a disciple of Saint Tongtian is truly the luckiest thing in the world. It's a pity, I regret it. The great masters of the prehistoric times are once again upset about why they didn't worship the Jijiao when Tongtian established the religion. If they worship the Jijiao, they would not only gain fame in the battle to confer gods before, but also gain luck now. The introduction of the Western religion, Zunti's eyes were stunned when he saw it. Good things like luck should not be used to improve one's own strength, but distributed to disciples. They couldn't understand, and they couldn't understand why Tongtian was so proud. Among the Jijiao, except for Wu Tian, Duo Bao, Tong Jiape, Jinling Liudang, and Kesidagarba, the other disciples looked ecstatic. After destroying Chanjiao this time, they got a lot of good magic weapons. Now that they are adding thanks to the great luck given by their teacher, their strength can be said to have skyrocketed again. Thank you, teacher. All the disciples of Jijiao saluted respectfully. No need to be polite. You have a good life to cultivate, and after 10,000 years of becoming a god, the world will have great opportunities to change. If you are successful in cultivation, you may be able to make some plans in the future. Tongtian waved his hand indifferently and said, big opportunity, big change. What big opportunity, what big change. All the powerful people in the prehistoric era were shocked. After thinking about it for a while. Although I don't know what the change of opportunity is, Saint Tongtian is extremely mysterious, and the great change and great opportunity he mentioned must not be false. Saint Tongtian asked his disciples to practice hard for a long time before they can plan. This proves that great opportunities will change soon, and strong strength is needed to compete for one or two. Hurry up and practice cultivation. You must not miss the great opportunities and changes that will come in 10,000 years. All the great masters in the prehistoric era immediately chose to start retreating. The Western sects Jian and Zunti frowned. If Tongtian was just the Tongtian they thought before, who had just established a sect with average strength, they would never say what Tongtian said. Big opportunities and big changes, they had any ideas. But Tongtian was too strong and too mysterious. They couldn't help but think about it carefully. Senior brother, what exactly is the great opportunity and great change that Taoist Tongtian mentioned? Why did I not feel it despite all my calculations? Zunti said. I don't know either. I did some calculations just now and it seems like there haven't been any big changes. After Jian responded, he looked deeply and continued, fellow Taoist Tongtian is stronger than us, so he must be able to see further than us. Since he said there are big opportunities and big changes, it is impossible to say that there are real ones. Let's hurry up and make a good living. Improve your cultivation level and let your Buddhist disciples step up their practice. Let's see if we can win one or two in the future when great opportunities and big changes happen. Good. Zunti nodded. Respect the teacher's order. The disciples of Zhijiao quickly returned to the Supreme Palace and continued their cultivation. Tongtian, what are the big changes and big opportunities you mentioned? Nuwa asked after all the disciples of Zhijiao left. Nuwa had also made some calculations just now, but she did not calculate that there would be any abnormality in the prehistoric period. Before, I talked to Taoist Patriarch about the term small thousand worlds. Did you hear it? Tongtian smiled and said. I heard it. What is this small world, and what does it have to do with this great change and great opportunity? Nuwa was even more puzzled. The place where we are is called the Great Desolate World, but in the eternal chaotic world, it is called the small thousand worlds of chaos. And above the small thousand worlds of chaos, there are also the middle thousand worlds of chaos and the great thousand worlds of chaos. Soon after, the way of heaven will lead the 3,000 avenues and many Hongmeng into the prehistoric world, thus transforming the small thousand worlds of chaos into the middle thousand worlds of chaos. Tongtian said. 3,000 avenues, thousands of grand phenomena. New Wa's face is still confused. The 3,000 avenues are just like the avenues I cultivate. When the 3,000 avenues enter the wilderness, you and others will have the opportunity to cultivate the avenues. And many Hongmeng refers to the Hongmeng purple energy. The Hongmeng purple qi appears, and many Hunyuan saints will emerge from the prehistoric times. Tongtian continued. When Nuwa heard this, she was instantly shocked. There are 3,000 avenues and a lot of Hongmeng purple energy, which is equivalent to earth-shaking changes in the prehistoric times. Then, why didn't I figure it out? Asked Nuwa. You haven't figured it out yet because the way of heaven hasn't been decided yet, Tongtian said with an indifferent smile. Once upon a time, the prehistoric times were plotted by Hongzhun, the Dao of heaven. But starting from today, it is up to him, Tongtian, to plot the Dao of heaven. He changed his name to a god and appeared as an unknown Taoist in order to force Hongzhun and the Dao of heaven, and turn the prehistoric world from the chaos of Xiaoqi, and the world became 1,000 worlds in chaos. In the previous life, the Saint of Heaven was in charge of the way of heaven. In the name of heaven, he weakened the prehistoric world infinitely so that he could control it with all his strength. This is also the reason why after becoming a god, no quasi-sage appeared. But Tongtian partiality, he must do the opposite. From now on, he will have the final say on how the prehistoric land will turn out. He will reverse the transformation of the gods and force Hongzhun to transform the prehistoric world into 1,000 worlds in chaos. The next journey to the west will measure calamity, and Tongtian will reverse the journey to the west. Forcing Hongzhun's way of heaven, he completely pushed the prehistoric world into the eternal chaotic world. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 139. Tiandao Hongzhun can control the ancient world, relying on the powerful power of heaven to check and balance. However, now there is a powerful avenue that reaches the sky. Tiandao has already felt threatened. Zixiao Palace. Hongzhun, the saint of heaven, frowned. How could this be? The emergence of the great way of power threatens both me and the way of heaven with destruction. The meaning of the way of heaven is to lead to the 3,000 avenues and the many great phenomena, so that the prehistoric world can change from a small world of chaos to 1,000 worlds of chaos. It's nothing more than attracting many Hongmeng. Those who use the purple energy of Hongmeng to realize the Dao of chaos rely on the Dao of heaven to exist, and fall under the control of me and the Dao of heaven. But if the 3,000 avenues are introduced, if the 3,000 avenues cannot be integrated into the way of heaven in the future, the physical control of the way of heaven will definitely be a big threat. Alas, the changes in the nameless fellow Taoist really caught me by surprise. It seems that all we can do is focus on the present and use the 3,000 avenues to confront the avenue of power. After being conferred as a god for thousands of years, he led many of the 3,000 avenues into the wild world. Hongzhun sighed. He was obviously unwilling, but he had no choice. When Hongzhun decided to lead the 3,000 avenues and many Hongmeng, Tongtian had already sensed it with the power of the avenue. It really fell into my plan. However, Tiandao Hongzhun has no other choice but to fall into my scheme. Tongtian smiled indifferently. The ancient times did not remember years. Tens of thousands of years passed in the blink of an eye. In Zixiao Palace, Hongzhun opened his eyes. The power of heaven finally evolved 365 incense gods and one incense saint. It's such a pity that my disciple Yuanqi should not be on the list. If this were not the case, the power of heaven would not have to evolve over thousands of years. Hongzhun looked at the saints of Yuanqi on the list of gods and sighed. In the normal prehistoric calendar, there would be no saints on the list of gods. But because of the changes in Tongtian, Yuanqi died and was listed. Originally there were 365 incense and fire gods. The power of heaven only evolved over a few years from the dead person who became a god. However, Yuanqi was added. Yuanqi was once a saint with a high status, so the evolution of the power of heaven was delayed for 10,000 years. Speaking of which, Yuanqi tragic. The majestic saint of the Hunyuan dynasty can only become an incense saint from now on, and his strength will be 100 times worse than before. His status is low, and he will still be controlled by the Jade Emperor Haoshan in the future. Originally, according to the general trend of heaven, there should be a teaching of interpretation to confer gods, but it is a pity that my disciple Yuanqi's teaching of interpretation no longer exists. If my disciple is asked to reach heaven and cut off religion and become a god, I'm afraid he won't be happy. It seems that the only way is to let the Jade Emperor himself become a god. After Hongzhun finished speaking, he waved his hand. The list of gods appeared in the sky. Today, the 365 incense immortals and one incense saint on the list of gods have evolved. These 360 mulberry or immortals, as well as the supreme incense saint, are transformed from the rays of souls who died in the previous battle to confer gods. Jade Emperor, come to Zixiao Palace, I will pass on your list of gods, and you will be granted the title of god. Incense immortal and incense saint will become your immortal positions in heaven. Hongzhen transmitted the message to Honghuang indifferently. In an instant, a group of great experts heard the voice and started talking. Conferred gods, incense immortals, incense saints. Unexpectedly, those disciples of the Chan sect and the People's sect who once died would be resurrected in this way. However, when a ray of soul is resurrected by the power of Taoist heavenly Dao, both his status and strength are probably 100 times worse than before. Moreover, he also has to become an immortal in heaven and be controlled by heaven in the future. Even though he was resurrected, his fate was still miserable. Hongzhen's voice spread throughout the world. Naturally, the Jade Emperor of Heaven also heard it. In these years, although he has the title of Jade Emperor, he has always been a bear commander. There is no one available below. Now I know that Hongzhen gave him the title, God gave him the immortal position in heaven, and his face instantly became overjoyed. This meant that he would finally have someone to use heaven in the future. Overjoyed, he hurried to Xixiao Palace without any hesitation. Heaven was short of people, but there was another place where the same was true. There is a shortage of people. That is the Western religion that has been suppressed by the demonic religion. Incense immortal, incense saint. Senior brother, our Western religion has been losing popularity since the birth of the demonic cult. This time the incense immortal is a rare opportunity. Shall we go to the teacher and ask for some incense immortal to come over? Zunti said with a look in his eyes. The Western sect has been suppressed since the birth of the demon sect, and its development can be said to be miserable. The giant Buddha in the sect has been destroyed since Wushan, and there are still only a few of them. Now that there is such an opportunity, how could they miss it? Although the incense immortal is inferior in strength and status, they are all immortals. When you go, let's ask the teacher to make sure that the incense immortal doesn't give it all to heaven. Jiyan nodded. Soon, two holy bodies emerged from the Lingshan mountain. In just a moment, Ji Yin and Zunti had already arrived at Xixiao Palace. As soon as they arrived, Haoshan also arrived. When Haoshan saw Ji Yin and Zunti, he couldn't help but wonder. Why did the two saints Ji Yin and Zunti come? Didn't the Taoist just summon him? I have seen the sage Jiying and the sage Zunti. I was puzzled, but these two people were saints after all. And he, Haoshan, was just the Jade Emperor. In terms of honor, the two saints were in front of him. He paid homage and met them. Jade Emperor, no need to be polite. Jiyan and Zunti waved their hands condescendingly. Haoshan, since we are here at the same time, let's go in together over there. After saying that, Jiyan and Zunti walked in front, followed by Haoshan. In just a moment, they were already in front of Hongzhen. See the teacher. See Dazu. Jiyan and Zunti, Haoshan, all bowed. Hongzhen waved his hand. Then, Hongzhen looked at Jiyan and Zun and asked, why are you two coming to my Xixiao Palace? Teacher, can you give us some incense immortals from the list of gods to lure us to the west? The receptionist lowered his tone and said with a somewhat pleading expression. Teacher, you also know that since the birth of the demon sect, our Western religion has been suppressed everywhere, not to mention that the great Buddha in the religion was wiped out by the demon sect Wushan. Now the Western religion is empty. Zunti didn't lag behind at all, and quickly helped, with a tone that was almost crying. In terms of performance, Jiyin and Zunti are definitely actor level. As soon as they opened their mouths, they went straight to the photo, and they performed well. Haoshan, who was still puzzled before. Now I understand. This rhythm is to compete with him for people. He has always been the commander in heaven, and now Daozu has finally given him a list of gods, allowing him to have incense immortals in heaven to enter the immortal position. Now he wants to recruit Yin and Zunti. Extradite some and take them away. How could Haoshan agree to this? This is absolutely not possible. Honghuang, I can reach the sky without realizing the great way, and I will never change my form to author, Honghuang Xiaoan. Chapter 140. Holy Saint Zunti, you too, although Western religion is in recession, there are still many Buddhists and disciples after all. But there is no one in my heaven who wouldn't cry about being poor. You are poor, and I am even poorer. I am a polished commander, and I have finally gained a lot of people. How could I be taken away by you? Dao ancestor, you have also seen that I am in charge of countless Yuanhui in heaven, but it has always been just me and Yaokai, and the three realms cannot be controlled at all. Haoshan looked very poor and pitiful, and said to Daozu, compared with crying for poverty, how could Jiyin and Zunti just admit defeat like this? You cry hard, and we cry even harder. Teacher, you can't ignore our Western section. Our Western sect is a sage sect and also belongs to teacher's Suanmen lineage. It's so popular that it's such a joke. That's right, teacher, our Western religion can be regarded as the face of the Suanmen lineage. After receiving Yin and Zunti, the two of them cried repeatedly. The performance emperor is the performance emperor, and the beginning of the performance is the peak. Emotions, expressions, and words, reaching the extreme every minute. To be honest, although Haoshan is the Jade Emperor, when it comes to performance, he still has it's really a little worse than the two of them. One is the dignified Western Church with two saints, and the other is the Jade Emperor who is in charge of the three realms. One is poorer than the other. Fortunately, the ancient power like Zixiao Palace cannot pay attention to this place at all. Otherwise, it will definitely be a big joke that will make people laugh forever. Speaking of which, these two parties were originally powerful existences, but now they are so miserable and aggrieved. The reason is still because of Jijiao and Tongtian. The battle between Tianting and Wangxianjiao, directly cool. The Western sect has created the demon Buddha Wuxian, who has been suppressed and beaten. Hung Jun frowned. As a saint of heaven, how could he not know what the Western sect was like with heavenly court? The heavenly sect should have been as powerful as a rainbow, and the Western sect was also it should be a big sect. However, both parties can only be described as miserable. Originally, these 365 incense immortals and incense saints were prepared to be handed over to heaven. But the Western sect accepted and Zunti it's here, he can't ignore it. Forget it, it is not easy for you two to develop Western religion, so you choose more than 100 incense immortals from the list of gods. Hung Jun said. Haoshan cried for a long time, and when he heard that the Taoist ancestors still wanted to divide people, he was very unhappy. I finally had 360 incense immortals, and now you have divided more than 100 of them at once. Haoshan was not happy. However, Jiyin and Zunti, who were taught by the Western sect, laughed in their hearts. They thought they could extradite dozens of immortals at most, but to their surprise, Dazu's great arrogance divided them into more than 100. Incense immortal, although his status is lowered and his strength is not as good as before, he is still an immortal. He can also bless luck. What Western religions lack is luck. Thank you Daozu. Jiyin and Zunti quickly saluted and thanked. Dao ancestor, there is no one in my heavenly court. These hundreds of people have been given to the Western section. What should I do in my heavenly court? Haoshan was anxious and said quickly. Jade Emperor, Western religion is the foundation of ancient times and should not be too weak. You will suffer some losses this time, Hung Jun said indifferently. I went, they cried, and I cried too. Why should I be the one who suffers? Who would be happy with it? You said they cried, but I didn't cry. I don't have any candy. But everyone cried. Dazu. Haoshan quickly continued to prepare. However, his words have not yet been spoken. There was a hint of indifference on Hung Jun's face. Jade Emperor, this matter has been agreed upon, there is no need to discuss it anymore. In his indifferent tone, there was no hint of negotiation, but only orders. Haoshan felt sad. The Western teachings of Jian and Zunti cry, and you become soft-hearted. I want to make a point here, but you don't give me a chance. It can only be said that in Hongzhen's heart, the saint is still higher than the Jade Emperor in heaven. After receiving Yin Zunti, you and the other two can choose to extradite from the list of gods. Hongzhen waved his hand, and the list of gods appeared in front of several people. After receiving Yin and Zunti, they quickly stepped forward and began to choose. The two of them immediately prepared to choose the incense saint to explain the Yuanji religion. Haoshan on the side was anxious again. If you choose an immortal, you should choose an immortal. Do you want to take away a saint of incense and fire? Just when Haoshan was anxious, luckily Hongzhen spoke, the saint of incense and fire will stay in heaven, and you can do whatever you want with the rest. Incense saint, although he has become an incense rank, he was also a saint before, and his strength is stronger than other incense immortals. The greedy characters of Jiyan and Zunti naturally made up their mind from the beginning. However, Hongzhen spoke now, they can only give up. Is teacher? The two nodded. The incense saint cannot be chosen. However, there is no restriction on the other incense saints on the list of gods, Hongzhen Daezu. The two of them gave all the best 100 or so from the 365. They were selected. Haoshan on the side looked both angry and depressed. Can't you keep two strong ones? If you take away all the good ones, how will I play in heaven in the future? Jiyan and Zunti are selfish. Character, do you want them to consider heaven? That is almost impossible. After the two chose happily, they said goodbye to Dazu immediately. They returned to the Western Church happily. More than 100 incense immortals on the list of gods were extradited to Lingshan. Lingshan finally gained some popularity. See the leader. See the saint. More than 100 incense immortals saluted in unison. Seeing the scene in front of them, Jiyan and Zunti couldn't help but think that the last time their Western sect had such a scene was a few Yuanhui years ago, when the demon sect had not yet appeared. Senior brother, it's really not easy for us. Yes, we must not offend anyone in Zhejiao from now on, otherwise, the popularity we finally gained will definitely disappear again. The two of them thought deeply and said with firm expressions. In Zixiao Palace, the Western cult received Yin and Zunti and left happily, but Haoshan was unhappy. On the list of gods, except for one incense saint, the rest are either the third-generation disciples of Chanjiao or a few monks from the human race, all of whom are weak. But if you are unhappy, you can only suppress it in your heart. Haoshan, go with the list of gods, tell heaven and earth, activate the gods, let heaven and earth know about the immortal position in heaven, so that it can be managed in the future. Hongzhen waved his hand, and the list of gods fell on Haoshan. Yes, Daezu. Haoshan collected the list of gods, said goodbye to Hongzhen, and returned directly to heaven. In just a moment, Haoshan had returned to heaven. He stood directly on the Lingxiao Palace of Heaven. He lifted the list of gods out. Today, under the orders of Taoist ancestor, I declare to heaven and earth and initiate the canonization of gods. Any incense immortal who is granted the title of immortal will obey the orders of heaven and follow me to rule the three realms. Haoshan's voice spread throughout the world in an instant. Reminds you, 3 things about reading, collecting and recommending.